Emergency. Site-wide lockdown is now in effect. All main power has been cut off from the facility. All chambers have been unlocked, and all SCPs have been released from containment. Special forces are currently being deployed by the O5 Council to prevent SCPs from escaping the site. All on-site personnel please await further instructions. Emergency update. All SCPs on Site-19 have breached containment, and there have also been numerous reports of a complete loss of power from other sites. It is speculated, but cannot be confirmed, that this was a delicately and thoroughly planned attack on the Foundation. All attempts made by forces sent out by the O5 Council have ultimately failed, and several Keter-class SCPs have already went beyond site limits. This is an extremely dangerous situation, and the Foundation is currently utilizing all of its resources to potentially neutralize this containment breach. Governments have been notified of the breach, and a warning will be given to civilians. However, some info will be altered as to sustain the Foundation's secrecy. As for all on-site personnel, anyone without authorization is required to leave the premises immediately until the situation has been neutralized. Select D-class personnel will be sent back to normal civilian prisons, while the remainder will be used as potentially helpful subjects.
This is NOAA Weather Radio, station KIG-63, serving Grand Rapids and all surrounding areas, operating on a frequency of 162.550 MHz. This station is operated by the National Weather Service in Grand Rapids. The current time is 2:03 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Here is the forecast for the Grand Rapids metro area. Today, partly cloudy, highs above 50, lows below 40. Northeast winds around 10 miles per hour. Tonight, cloudy, highs above 30, lows below 20. Northwest winds around 15 miles an hour. Tuesday, partly sunny, highs above 60, lows below 40. The following message is transmitted at the request of the Michigan State Police and an undisclosed authority. A biolab in Michigan has accidentally released several experimental objects, some of which could pose a threat to civilian safety. The whereabouts of the biolab will remain undisclosed at this time. During this situation, all civilians are required to stay at their homes until the objects have been successfully contained. If you encounter any strange or otherwise abnormal objects, call 911 immediately. More information will be provided on the situation as it becomes available. The following message is transmitted at the request of the Michigan State Police and a classified authority. A search for the missing objects is currently underway. All Michigan residents are to stay inside of their homes until the objects have been found and put back into containment. It has been determined that these objects were classified as highly dangerous by the biolab and pose an immediate threat to civilian safety, therefore they must be put back into containment as soon as possible. Anyone caught harboring the objects will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. All citizens are to remain indoors until it is deemed safe to venture outdoors. Anyone caught outside will be detained and may face fines of up to $10,000 or possibly even up to 5 years in prison for disrupting an essential government operation. Stay tuned to local news outlets for more information on this dangerous situation.
Breaking news. A biolab in an undisclosed part of Lower Michigan has apparently released several experimental objects that were determined to be able to pose an immediate threat to civilian safety. A manhunt is currently in progress for the objects, and if you see anything strange or otherwise abnormal, call 911 immediately and do not attempt to approach the object. These are extremely dangerous and have the full potential to kill you. A spokesperson from the has released a statement about the situation over phone.
We could potentially be facing the loss of many lives with this situation if it isn't handled properly and quickly. That's why we have our best men at hand who would even give their own life to save others. Right now, the situation is not looking good as the escaped objects are nowhere in sight, but we are looking everywhere. We are contemplating closing the Michigan state border, but it is very possible the objects have already crossed state lines, as we have discovered that these objects can slip by other people without making themselves heard or seen. We are currently working with the federal government to implement a task force dedicated to finding these objects.
Civil danger warning. The following message is transmitted at the request of the Michigan State Police and an undisclosed authority. A nuclear detonation was observed approximately 21 miles northwest of Lansing. This detonation was extremely powerful and destroyed everything within 10 miles of it. The blast has also generated a considerable amount of fallout. All residents within 200 miles of Lansing should seek a fallout shelter immediately. Fallout is an extremely radioactive and hazardous byproduct of nuclear explosions. Prolonged exposure to fallout will result in certain death. Be prepared to stay in your fallout shelter for up to 14 days. Gather 14 days worth of all basic necessities for your stay in the fallout shelter. The escaped objects from the biolab have still not been located, but it is assumed that the radiation will drive them away from the Lansing area. All citizens are to remain in their fallout shelters until it is deemed safe to venture outdoors. Stay tuned to news outlets for updates.
I think it's fair to say that this is a carefully planned attack being carried out on the Foundation. The only question is, who is the attacker?
That's a very good question. It could be the insurgency, but recent intel shows that they have no involvement with this. At this point, I'm speculating that this could have been carried out by an SCP, or maybe even multiple.
It could also be an entirely new threat. One that we've never seen before.
That is also a possibility. Let's all keep in mind that whoever this is, they are incredibly smart and most certainly have multiple spies inside the Foundation, as we found out that the sudden explosion of Site-19 came from its on-site nuclear device, instead of a foreign projectile, which we had previously thought.
I think it would be wise to lock down all facilities as soon as possible and conduct investigations on every single worker, SCP and prisoner of the Foundation. If there is a spy involved, then we must keep our conversations completely private.
I agree. We cannot risk them using SCPs as a weapon against us, especially the more dangerous ones. I found out that they may unfortunately have SCP-173 in possession, which is not a good sign.
Are you fucking kidding me? 173? How fucking mad are these people?
Well, let's look on the bright side. 173 will have all their necks snapped within 3 hours unless they know how to handle it.
That's the thing. They probably do know how to handle 173. As I've said before, whoever is behind these attacks is incredibly smart. If they didn't know how to handle 173, then they wouldn't have used it.
transmitted at the request of the Illinois State Police and an undisclosed authority. A large, unidentified lizard-like creature with an apparent desire to kill has been spotted roaming around in central Illinois. Several deaths have already been reported in central Illinois from the following counties: Livingston, McLean, Iroquois, Fort, Woodford, and Tazewell. It has also been noted that this creature can move at abnormal speeds and can travel large distances on foot within a matter of hours. The Illinois State Police are asking all residents of Illinois to remain indoors until further notice and remain out of sight of any windows or openings to the outside as do not draw the creature's attention. Armed forces are being sent in to deal with the situation. All citizens without permission are to remain indoors until further notice with all doors and windows sealed. More updates will be given on this dangerous situation shortly.
So now, whoever this is, they now have SCP-682 in their possession and released it. The good thing is that we may be able to track them down since the first sightings of 682 were in central Illinois, which may mean that the person is still there.
I don't know about that. This person possesses possibly superhuman intelligence and seems to know almost everything about the Foundation. I'm willing to bet that they're already very far away from that location.
We need to send our best men out to deal with 682. I know the object is capable of almost anything, and if we leave it unattended then surely half of the world's population will be wiped out within a matter of days. This is one of the only SCPs we've longed to destroy for good, as it poses a massive threat. At this point, I don't think we're going to be able to get it back in containment, so our best bet would be to use any means necessary to kill it, even if...
Security breach detected. All personnel on site are to shelter in place immediately. This is not a test.
Immediate evacuation order for the entirety of Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, and the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government and an undisclosed authority. All attempts to contain the unidentified creature first spotted in Illinois with abnormal strengths have failed, and sightings of the creature have already been reported in Iowa and Missouri. The United States government has decided to issue an immediate evacuation order for all states in the lower Midwest. Safe evacuation routes have been established, and the National Guard will guide civilians along the route. Once it is determined that all regular civilians have dispersed, the United States Armed Forces will be using all means necessary to exterminate the creature, which may possibly include the use of nuclear weapons. The use of such weapons will only be authorized if the creature is enclosed in a more rural and less populated area, as to ensure that all densely populated areas do not get completely obliterated, so citizens can resume their normal lives at their homes. Anyone caught trying to cross the military perimeter into the Midwest without authorization will be detained and may face long-term incarceration. More updates will be provided over the National Emergency Alert System and national news outlets as they become available. To repeat, an evacuation order has been issued for the lower Midwest, which includes the following states: Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Iowa, Missouri, and Wisconsin. All residents in these areas are to follow government-established evacuation routes.
Someone gave me a tip about a Twitter account by the name of Bob Parkins. They have exposed the existence of the Foundation and do not seem to exactly like us, either. I think it's fair to say this could be the attacker.
What? They fucking exposed us. Contact Twitter immediately and get the account taken down before it gains too much publicity.
Fuck that. It'll take them ages to respond to us. Let's just hack into it and take it down ourselves.
Shouldn't we look at their tweets? They may be giving us clues on what they're gonna do next.
I saw one where they said their, quote-unquote, army was emerging. This sounds like they may have many more SCPs at their disposal, or an army of people dedicated to wiping us out. Either way, they exposed us and this is not good at all. After this is over, I would suggest erasing everyone's memories of this.
That's what I was thinking too. Let's wait and see.
This message is being broadcasted at the request of the White House and an undisclosed authority. About 10 minutes ago, many more harmful and dangerous creatures began to make themselves known in the Midwest. These creatures have overpowered all armed forces and have already begun to kill millions. It is now inevitable that these creatures will spread into the rest of the United States and Canada, and may possibly cross oceans due to their unnatural feats. The United States government has authorized the use of any weapons to eradicate the creatures, regardless of the damage it can cause. It is very likely that many nuclear weapons will be needed for this, which means that much of the mainland United States will end up in a disastrous, war-zone-like condition. In lieu of this decision, all citizens are to proceed to the nearest fallout shelter immediately with all basic necessities such as food, water, clothing, medical supplies, and a battery-powered radio for updates. The President will be speaking on all stations shortly. Please stand by.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
My fellow Americans, this is truly a dark time for all of us. Deadly creatures that seem to be coming out of a movie have wreaked havoc on this country. I can assure you that this is definitely not the end of us. While it may seem very catastrophic, this is definitely not something that will end us because we can persist. We have perseverance. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, the creatures will be eradicated, but at what cost? Well, unfortunately, while the many nuclear bombs that will likely be used will eradicate the creatures will take our glory with them too. But that doesn't mean we lose all of our dignity, because we can rebuild. Keep in mind, we are America. We are one of the most powerful countries in the world. We need to stay strong, stay positive, because this is surely not the end of us. I will make sure that we can retain that glory that we once had before this. We are strong. And whoever did this will face justice. We will make sure that they will never see the light of day again. Because causing something like this is unforgivable. I am so sorry that this had to happen to us. This is definitely one of the darkest times, and this will go down in history as something that damaged us. While we may be facing something out of a horror movie, have some hope. Because we will rebuild from this, and make it look as if this never happened. This concludes my message.
The Pentagon estimates that almost one-half of the creatures have been eradicated or put in containment. The whereabouts and identity of the person who released the creatures are still unknown. Several nuclear weapons have detonated across the country and were effective in killing 63 hostile creatures. No major cities were affected by these blasts. No citizens are permitted to exit their shelters or go outside at any time until the all-clear is given. A live update from the President will be broadcasted at 5 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. The Pentagon estimates that almost one-half of the creatures have been eradicated or put in containment. The whereabouts and identity of the person who released the creatures are still unknown. Several nuclear weapons have detonated across the country and were effective in killing 63 hostile creatures. No major cities were affected by these blasts. No citizens are permitted to exit their shelters or go outside at any time until the all-clear is given. A live update from the President will be broadcasted at 5 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. The Pentagon estimates that almost one-half of the creatures have been eradicated or put in containment. The whereabouts and identity of the person who released the creatures are still unknown. Several nuclear weapons have detonated across the
The following is an update on the ongoing global crisis. This update was issued by the United States President. The undisclosed authority recently got a lead on the identity of the person who may have caused all of this. The person has been noted to be highly intelligent and is notoriously known for covering up his tracks. The exact identity of this person will not be released. However, once they are tracked down and detained, they will undergo a series of questions to determine if they are the actual perpetrator. In addition, 4 more nuclear weapons were detonated and were effective in killing 25 of the 89 remaining creatures. 10 more have successfully been contained. This brings the number of creatures down to 54. American armed forces as well as several other armies are fighting tirelessly to eradicate the threat. The shelter order is still in effect for all citizens. No citizen is permitted to exit their shelter at any time until the all-clear is given. More updates will be provided later. All clear. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. It was recently confirmed that a suspected person mentioned in previous statements was behind the attacks in which many harmful and dangerous creatures were released into the public. All creatures have been successfully contained or killed, and the outside is now creature-free. However, extensive damage has been caused across the country due to the somewhat frequent use of nuclear weapons. The major cities were affected by nuclear blasts, but some smaller suburban areas were completely wiped. The shelter order is being lifted. Thank you for cooperating with your government during this unreal emergency.